I have made this, well, I guess one would call it an inlay, which I'm about to install in the deck of this new design, which is Haida. It is a Greenland style of boat. I've made this up. It's about 3/4 of an inch thick, which is a lot thicker than needed, but generally I make them thick so that we can account for the curvature of the deck as it goes in flat, and then I can belt sand it, smooth it, fair it in with the rest of the deck. I didn't film making it. It's tedious. I kind of make it in a bunch of parts, making the head, the tail, the body. Anyways, it's pretty ugly. I'm going to take it over and clean up the back side, the front side, so it's kind of clean and even. Then we'll trace it out, inlay it in, glue it in, and then belt sand it and sand it smooth. There's different thicknesses of materials going in. In other words, the yellow cedar is a lot thicker. Didn't quite actually get it all the way through, but that is fine. I'm going to attempt to clean up a bit of this on the bandsaw here, rather than, I'm afraid to put it through the thickness planer. I'm concerned it might just blow it apart. Okay, that's a lot cleaner. Now there isn't really much camber to the stern portion of the deck here, so just need to determine center. And overall width on this is, I'd say 7.5, so 325 other side of center. Should sit somewhere like that. I think it's going to be best to lay down some masking tape. Oops. Trace it on that so that when the jigsaw goes in, we are not going to shred too much in the way of cedar strips. And I'm just going to drill some holes and jigsaw that out. All just designed to take this out in a little bit of pieces, I suppose. Now I'm using a jigsaw with a super fine upcutting blade, obviously, trying not to tear and shred cedar as the upstroke of the blade. I have dremeled, I have sanded, I have sanded, I have dremeled, and we have a pretty good squeaky fit for that to go in. Now there's minor gaps in here, but it's going to be thickened epoxy with some sawdust in there to make it go black, and no one will see those tiny gaps. So time to mix up a little resin and shove this in. Okay, so mixed up some resin. Going to smear a good bit of butter mixture on all the edges except for the hole in the center here, because once this is ground down, then I need to do a second step of filling in this gap with a piece of yellow cedar. Now I'm putting it onto the inlay because I really want the epoxy to squeeze upwards as I push it in. If I put it onto the boat itself, when I push this in, I just push all of the resin out the bottom hole. I'd rather have the excess on the outside than on the inside. There will likely need some gap filling or a little bit of epoxy after it's sanded smooth in areas where there are still some gaps, but I think we're going to be pretty good on a fit here. Okay, see if we can get this to slide in without getting epoxy absolutely everywhere. And I'm feeling that it is well below the deck on the inside. So I should note that I also have not completely faired the deck. So all of this yellow cedar needs to be faired as well. There you have it. That will sit at least 10 hours before grinding that down and fairing the deck, filling a few holes, and then I need to take a piece of yellow cedar and put it back into that little gap. With this much material, proud of the deck, I'm going to try and hit this with my power planer, being extremely careful not to hit any corner edges of the blades into the yellow cedar. So we're going to give it a couple of passes here and see how it turns out. Okay, I think that's about as far as I want to chance taking it down. Probably do with a hand plane and then get into with a belt sander. Then I need to fair the whole deck. Now there are some extra pieces that I'm going to need to add into here, but they're basically just plugs. There's some dots that go in various places, the eye. That's easier to do once it's faired in, and then just put a plug in and cut it smooth. I think that's close enough for that stage. Alright, now I need to finish off the actual artwork with a few spots and fill in this gap with a piece of yellow cedar. So I have the actual piece of artwork that I've used many times over to make this logo in various showboats or prototypes or boats we take to events. So there's a couple of ways I can figure this pattern out. I can just see if I can trace like so, that shape there, and then I did save the cutout of cedar strips, which will have the slight curvature to it. So I think I'll just cut this out and trace it onto a piece of wood. Cut it a little large, sand it so that it'll go in. I've usually tried to line up as best as possible the same grain, but the yellow cedar's pretty consistent in color anyways. But I mean, if I had a darker strip or pattern through here, you know, I'd want that pattern to be matched through here. The other thing that is a bit of is that will this yellow cedar piece appear to be part of the deck or part of the inlay? Oh well, it is what it is as far as color goes. I'll just cut that on my little bandsaw. Okay, that's pretty close. Now what I've done on the disc sander is kind of made this in a bit of a wedge. So the bottom will go in, but the top will not. So now I can just kind of square up those edges. So that's ready to go in. So now I need to drill a couple of white holes here, a red hole in the center there, drill hole there. And yes, the drill is dull. Cut through too many fiberglass decks. I think it's time to purchase a new drill bit. So this is probably about as painful for you to watch as for me to drill. But I can't push all that hard because the deck is flexible and I don't want to crack it. Alright, that will conclude the holes. So now I'm going to cut some plugs. So I've got all the plugs made, I've got all the holes drilled, plugs made, and now we're ready to just glue them in. And for this purpose, I think we will do just fine with some CA glue. I'm going to use this Q-tip to kind of get it where I need. Okay, last phase. Take this off. Because I need to put eyeball. Alright, going to hit it with a final belt sander and then before fairing and final sanding. And with the inlay inserted and the deck all completed and sanded and faired, today I fiberglassed it. So thank you very much for watching. Hey, do consider becoming a subscriber and or at least give me a thumbs up. See you next time.